Chelsea agree a deal to sign João Félix on a permanent deal, meaning Conor Gallagher's move to Atletico Madrid is back on. Hi there, good evening. Welcome to the Transfer Show. There's no doubt Chelsea will be the busiest club in the final 11 days or so of this window. The future of many names at Chelsea dominate the headlines tonight. And of course, we've got Kove Solokol joining me, and Dharma Sheth and Mark McAdam. Welcome along to you all. There's also huge question marks over Ivan Toney's future at Brentford after the striker was left out of their season opener against Crystal Palace. And just one full season at Barcelona. Could Ilkay Gundogan be on his way back to the Premier League? Full details on that one on the way. We'll bring you news of a done deal as well. Oliver Skipp is now a Leicester player after completing his £25 million move from Tottenham. And we'll have a recap of the team news from the King Power Stadium as Leicester prepare for their return to the Premier League against Tottenham in the Monday Night Football. But we are going to start with some breaking news tonight, and it goes to you, Dharma Sheth. What can you tell us coming out of Ipswich tonight?
Yeah, they've had an ambitious summer, haven't they? And they signed a couple more players last week in Calvin Phillips and Sammy Szmodics. Well, they've announced another signing just now, and he's a player from Napoli. He's the one we have been reporting on. The midfielder Jens Kajust has joined on loan with the option to buy next summer, and that option will become an obligation, we think, if Ipswich Town manage to stay in the Premier League. So Ipswich have made yet another signing, Jens Kajust from Napoli, on loan with an option that could become an obligation. Brentford thought they were going to get him because they'd done a medical. He'd done a medical with Brentford, but there were unresolved issues in that deal. They'd agreed a loan with an option to buy for £10 million. That fell through. He's now on his way to Ipswich. OK, thank you for that breaking news. Let's turn our attention to Chelsea because they're going to be the big movers and shakers in the last 11 days or so, no doubt, of this window. Kave, João Félix, is he now a Chelsea player again?
Well, I think the deal has been agreed. He hasn't signed on the dotted line. He hasn't had his medical yet. But if it all goes according to plan, then he will become a Chelsea player again. He'll sign a long-term contract, 6 years, plus the option of another year. Now, João Félix, at his best, is one of the best players in the world. He's somebody who Atletico Madrid signed for, I think it was, £113 million. One of the biggest transfers fees in the world. He was supposed to have a big future at Atletico Madrid. He did in flashes. He had some really great games, scored some really important goals. But his relationship with Diego Simeone broke down. And that is why he has kind of been on the periphery. He's been out of favour. He went on loan to Chelsea 18 months ago. He did OK. He didn't set the world on fire. He was on loan at Barcelona last season as well. But he's still young. He's still only 25 years old. So potentially this is a really good signing for Chelsea. They know what they're going to get. But I'm not sure he's the player he was when Atletico Madrid signed him. And I'm not sure he's the player that necessarily Chelsea need at the moment. If you watched them yesterday against Manchester City, you wouldn't be sitting there thinking, you know what Chelsea really need is João Félix. But they've signed him, and there's going to be lots of players moving out as well. They're reshaping his squad, and undoubtedly he's a world-class talent. They just need to get the best out of him.
It's interesting you talk about world-class talents. You'd have to say Conor Gallagher is a world-class talent, but he looks like his move now could be set up because of the fact that João Félix is on his way to Chelsea.
Yeah, you have to feel a little bit sorry for Conor Gallagher. 10 days ago, he was on the Atletico Madrid club Twitter account, the X account, looking around the stadium. And the caption read, "We're just finalising the move," and he's just taking in his new surroundings. 10 days later, he's still been in limbo, waiting for this situation to formalise itself. Now, we know that there has been an issue with regards to finance for Atletico Madrid. The reason why they couldn't sanction, complete and confirm the Conor Gallagher deal was because they had to make sure a player went out in the opposite direction to free up funds, so they met the La Liga PSR rules. So therefore, Conor Gallagher has been patiently waiting at home. He was in Madrid for a number of days, eventually got told by his people, look, hang on, this isn't going to happen quickly. Go back home, carry on training, keep yourself fit whilst we sort out the problems. Obviously, the João Félix deal was the make weight to ensure that Conor Gallagher could depart Chelsea. We know the package is worth £36 million. He'd agreed a 5-year deal and completed his medical whilst he was in Madrid. And I think the important thing to point out with regards to this deal is that the reason why Chelsea are so keen to see Conor Gallagher leave is because of PSR. Now, he would represent 100% profit. We don't know the exact details with regards to the finance for João Félix, but, for example, on the accounts for Chelsea, there will be an incoming figure of 36 million, which will be for Conor Gallagher. And the purchase price of João Félix will be amortised over 5 years. So, for example, if they're spending, a similar amount, it will only say outgoing of 6 million, 7 million,
Yes.
8 million a year over the next 5 years, whereas the incoming is 36. So that's where Chelsea fans can be kind of rest assured that actually this is working for us financially. With any academy product, it represents 100% profit. But yeah, Conor Gallagher back in business, back potentially heading to Atletico Madrid, and it's all thanks to João Félix.
Yeah, so with Felix coming in, does that have more repercussions for the likes of Raheem Sterling? We've had this huge story over the weekend that he could be on his way.
I think what's happened with Raheem Sterling is, at the end of last season, he sat down and talked to Chelsea, and he didn't receive any indication that he was not wanted at Chelsea. He went away, had his holidays, came back early, has been in pre-season training, has really enjoyed working with Enzo Maresca, thought Maresca was going to get the best out of him, featured in a lot of pre-season games. He thought he was going to be a senior leadership figure at the club. And then last week, there started to be some reports that maybe other clubs were interested in Raheem Sterling. He trained as normal on Friday. After training on Friday, he was taken to one side by Enzo Maresca. And Enzo Maresca was very honest with him and said, look, Raheem, I'm not sure you're going to play regularly for me next season. Perhaps this is a good time to be looking at your options because we're also going to be bringing in players in your position. So that's the situation that Raheem Sterling is in now. Now, what is he going to do? Is he going to throw his toys out of the pram? Is he going to go on strike? I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I think what he wants is to sit down and have some dialogue with Chelsea and say to them, look, if you don't want me, OK, fine. I understand. I imagine he will be sad, he'll be disappointed, he'll be upset. His family are now settled in London, but he knows how the football business will work. And I think, I could be wrong, I think he will say to Chelsea, look, if you don't want me, let's find a club for me that do want me, and let's make sure it's a deal that works for my family, works for Chelsea, and also works for me as well. That's the situation we're in. I think Chelsea will listen to offers for him. He's still got 3 years left on his contract. He's a big earner at the club. That's not his fault. He was given that contract by the new Chelsea owners 2 years ago. But I think that's the situation that he's in. And a player of his experience and his standing in the game, somebody who's played for England 82 times, I don't think he's the kind of player who should be frozen out or spending a season on the sidelines. No. I think he's somebody who needs to be playing regularly at this stage of his career.
But he's only got 11 days left in which to wrap up a deal. Where could he go? Where do you think he might
Yeah, I mean, the timing's not ideal for him. I imagine it would have suited him much better and his representatives if he'd been told earlier.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Where could he go? We know that Juventus were interested in signing him last month. I'm not sure whether they followed up on that interest. If he wants to sort of carry on earning what he's earning at the moment, if it's all about money, which I don't think it is, for Raheem Sterling, then there's always the option of Saudi Arabia. I'm sure clubs in Saudi Arabia would be interested in signing him as well. I think he will have options, but the first thing that he's doing is having dialogue, sitting down and talking with Chelsea just to make clear that he knows where he stands. Once he knows where he stands, he'll consider his options.
OK, so Dharmesh, over to you. There's another player that looks like he could be on his way, Romelu Lukaku. Where do we stand with the deal with Napoli there?
Yeah, Napoli are pushing now because they've made an official bid for Romelu Lukaku from Chelsea. It's understood the proposal is a loan with an obligation to buy. That total package is worth around 30 million euros, including the loan fee. Now, Chelsea have always wanted to do a permanent deal for Romelu Lukaku, but dialogue we think still remains open between the two clubs. Initially, it was thought that Lukaku's potential move would depend on Napoli selling Victor Osimhen. Now, if Chelsea were to accept that initial loan with the obligation, which they're unlikely to do because of their stance of it being a permanent deal, it would work for Napoli because it would give them a bit of breathing space with regard to Victor Osimhen, because the ideal scenario, financially, they can't have both of those players on such high wages at the club at the same time. It's clear that this deal on, they want it done on their terms, Chelsea want it done on their terms, that's clear. It's just going to take a lot of negotiating between the two clubs to try and come to a resolution, because there's a willingness from Chelsea, there's a willingness from Lukaku, and there's a willingness from Napoli to try and get this deal done and dusted. Napoli's need, though, has been heightened over the weekend. Antonio Conte's first game in charge, they lose 3-0 to Hellas Veronas. He says it's a shameful performance, effectively sending a message to the hierarchy at the club. We need to sort this out. So Romelu Lukaku is my primary target since I've arrived at this club. Let's try and sort this deal out for Romelu Lukaku. Now, Chelsea themselves are still looking at a potential deal for Victor Osimhen. But that one looks so difficult and complex to do because of the transfer fee involved, but significantly the wages as well. We don't think Osimhen wants to take a wage cut from what he's on at Napoli, and that's going to prove to be a problem for Chelsea. In the background, PSG are looking to do a deal with Victor Osimhen. So they're still in talks with Napoli over a potential deal. But the information I'm getting on this is that this one is likely to go towards the end of the window, maybe even the final hours of the window. So it's going to be a case of brinkmanship. And you can't blame PSG if they think they can do a deal for him to wait as long as they can, because Napoli might feel a little bit desperate if they've sorted out a deal for Romelu Lukaku already. And against the backdrop of all of that as well, Napoli have gone in with another deal, which they've almost completed. It's David Neres from Benfica, and he's worth around 30 million euros as well, which is the same figure that they were sparing for Romelu Lukaku. Hence why it was thought, is the Romelu Lukaku deal going to be dependent on Victor Osimhen? If Chelsea still want to do that permanent deal, and they are insistent on it, then that could still be the key to unlocking a deal for Lukaku.
Sure, I can't wait, because I'm working till midnight on transfer deadline day, so that one will all unravel itself, no doubt, whilst I'm on air. Who else will Chelsea be looking to offload? You dare say that there's quite a few players that might not be there come Friday's window closure?
Well, it's a huge squad, and there are a number of first-team players that could play in other first teams in the Premier League that potentially could be heading out of the exit at Stamford Bridge. We know that there's been question marks about Ben Chilwell, Nathaniel Chalobah, Armando Broja, who's been linked with Ipswich, as well as Conor Gallagher. So there's just a number of players, and there were a number of players that didn't actually feature on the matchday programme as well, on the back of the programme where it has the squad list. So potentially could that be an indicator as to some of those players may be leaving? I guess the Chelsea fans, and this is maybe a question I'll pose to Carve, will be looking at this situation, Sterling, and they'll say, really, you know, Todd Boehly signed Raheem Sterling, gave him that contract, paid him those wages, and now suddenly he doesn't appear to be in favour. The same with Conor Gallagher, who wore the Chelsea captain's armband last season, and they're still going out and signing new players. A Victor Osimhen deal would be a huge deal to make happen. It would probably be the biggest deal of the summer. What is the plan at Chelsea? It might not be something you can answer, but certainly we're getting conflicting messages, and we're looking at players coming in and players going out, and they want to reduce the wage bill. They don't want to pay huge weekly wages. It feels like no one quite knows in which direction they're going to go next.
There definitely is a plan. You know, the easiest thing for me to do would be to sit here and criticise Chelsea. It's, you know, open season on Chelsea. Everyone's criticising them. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. But these people who've bought Chelsea are very smart people. They're people who've made a lot of money. They think they have the right plan for Chelsea. Now, I know a lot of Chelsea supporters, and a lot of Chelsea supporters are unhappy. They feel that the club has lost its soul. Too much has changed too quickly. And they feel that they had a great club, that Roman Abramovich had sort of rebuilt, and they were very, very successful. They had Thomas Tuchel, they'd won the Champions League. They were club world champions as well, a couple of months before these new owners arrived.
Yeah.
But these new owners have a different point of view. And their point of view is that when we bought this club was in a sorry state. Sanctions under the UK government. The club shop was closed. You couldn't buy food or drink at the stadium. You couldn't buy tickets for games. There were problems paying for travel for the team to away games. The structure behind the scenes was all wrong. Roman Abramovich had kind of been running it as a family business. The new owners feel that they needed to change everything and make it a modern, sleek, well-run club, a club like sort of Manchester City or Arsenal or Liverpool. And that is what they're trying to do. They've changed everything behind the scenes, the structure. Now, I think we're getting to the point where they are going to have to start delivering. I think once this deadline day is over, this is their club now. They've got their people in place throughout the club. They've got the head coach they want. They've got the sporting directors they want. They've got the doctors, the groundsmen they want, everything they want. They've now put in place, and they're going to have the squad they want as well. So I think this is going to be a really, really important season for Chelsea. And I think we just need to wait and see what happens before we judge the owners. Although, having said that, I totally understand the feelings of a lot of Chelsea supporters who feel, what's going on at my club?
Yeah,
This doesn't feel like Chelsea anymore.
Yeah.
These players, they're all good players, but where are the personalities? Where are the characters? Where are the John Terrys, the Frank Lampards, the Didier Drogbas? This isn't the Chelsea that I started supporting. But the new owners would say that Chelsea, was past its sell-by date, and we need to build a new club with new structures, and that's what we're doing, and be patient.
I think that's the thing. Patience is the key word here, and it'll be proof in the puddings to see what's happening to Enzo Maresca come the end of this season. If they don't make Champions League football, what will Chelsea do? Will they think, hang on a minute? Or will this genuinely be a long-term plan that they're talking about in 5 to 10 years, which is what Enzo Maresca told me on Friday? They've got a long-term plan.
They do have a long-term plan, but I think in the short term as well, Chelsea need to be qualifying for the Champions League. I think he told you that he hasn't been told face-to-face that that is the target, that's what he needs to do, but that's what he needs to do. Chelsea need to be back in the Champions League. Chelsea cannot be a mediocre team. They can't be finishing 10th or even 6th or 5th. They need to be finishing in the top 4. And maybe he hasn't been told that directly, but I'm sure Maresca knows that that's what he needs to do, especially with the money that's been spent this summer, and especially because come deadline day, once the deadline is out of the way, he will have a 25-man Premier League squad, and that is the squad that he wants.
Yeah.
Just one other line to bring you. Mark mentioned it before about Armando Broja. I've just been told that Ipswich continue talks with Chelsea over the potential signing of Armando Broja. Not a done deal by any means, but another sign of Ipswich's ambition. They've signed a number of players in this window, 3 now in the last 4 or 5 days, and they're still working on Broja as well.
OK. All right, thanks for bringing us up to date on all of Chelsea there. Stay with us, because coming up after the break, we're going to take a look at the future of Brentford striker Ivan Toney, as well as some of the ins and outs at Arsenal and Manchester United.
do know that they reopened talks with Manchester United over the signing of Scott McTominay, which I'm sure we'll bring you a bit more information about a bit later on. But I've just been told that they have made a bid for a Manchester United target, actually, Sander Berge from Burnley. We understand that the fee that they've offered is £20 million payment plus related add-ons. So Fulham have made a bid to Burnley for their midfielder Sander Berge of around £20 million initial payment plus performance-related add-ons. I'm told that Fulham are still awaiting Burnley's response about whether that bid has been accepted or not. So as soon as on that, we're going to bring it to you. But obviously, Fulham are in the market to bring in a central midfielder. We think they just want to bring in one. But of course, as is in keeping with a lot of clubs, how they do their business, they won't just want to focus on one target. They've got numerous targets. We know Scott McTominay is one from Manchester United. Sander Berge is another one as well. And they've made a bid for Sander Berge, and we'll wait to see if that has been accepted or not.
We were speculating about that on Friday because, of course, he didn't make the team, did he, for Burnley? And talking of not making the team, Ivan Toney didn't make the team, did he, for Brentford as well? So speculation continues about his future. What can you tell us, Mark?
Yeah, this was one of the big stories on the opening weekend of the Premier League, and I think there were a lot of surprised football fans, a lot of surprised Brentford fans as well, that Ivan Toney wasn't in the matchday squad. And Thomas Frank, who's always so open and transparent and honest, had said he didn't feel that Ivan was in the right place mentally to be involved this weekend against Crystal Palace, so decided to leave him out of the squad. Now, why are we having these conversations? Because Ivan Toney has entered the final year of his Brentford contract. We know now, but not something we knew at the time, that Brentford had rejected an offer from Al Ahly, Saudi Arabia Pro League club, that are interested in taking Ivan Toney. We know there has been several links over the course of the summer to the Saudi Pro League, but that offer was rejected. And therefore, with that speculation, with that noise surrounding the player, Thomas Frank decided it just wasn't right for him to play. And of course, they went on to pick up all 3 points. And you saw Johan Visser and Brian Mbomo score goals. So clearly they're OK without Ivan Toney. To that Brentford.
They've been anyway, haven't they, really, through the ban?
Yes, of course, because the first half of last season, they didn't have Ivan Toney because of that ban. He came back, scored 4 in 5, and then didn't score again. But obviously played a big role for Gareth Southgate in England, especially with that no-look penalty that everyone loved over the course of the summer. I think the biggest question Brentford now have is, what do they do if an offer comes in that is a bit of a tempter? Do they get Ivan Toney out the door, take the money and accept that this would be a huge profit on a player they paid just £5 million with around £5 million in add-ons from Peterborough in the summer of 2020? Or do they see his value as far greater to that team in helping Brentford perhaps not just to stay in the Premier League, but maybe even push into the top 10, push into the top half? And as you know, every position in the Premier League that you can go up is worth between £2.5 and £3 million. So if Ivan Toney's worth 5 places, then that's worth a chunk of money as well. So I think this is one to keep an eye on. Between now and the end of the window, which is next Friday, there is going to be a lot of talk about Ivan Toney. As of yet, we've seen no Premier League sides show any formal interest, but there will be a number of teams that will be looking at this and thinking, right, what's the deal? And I'm sure there'll be a return from Al Ahly with another potential offer for Ivan Toney. You get the feeling we'll be talking about him a lot between now and next Friday.
Yeah, he's a great player, isn't he? Let's talk Arsenal. 2-0 win for them, obviously, this weekend against Wolves. Is he still, Mikel Arteta, in the business for getting a midfielder in? Where are we with this?
100%. Yeah. Gary Cottrell did an interview with him last week and asked the question, does Mikel like Mikel?
Yes.
And I can say that Mikel does like Mikel. Mikel Arteta likes Mikel Merino. Arsenal remain in talks with Real Sociedad over the signing of the Spain international midfielder. It's thought the clubs are finalising the payment structure and the makeup of the performance-related add-ons. Just becomes a theme, doesn't it, these performance-related add-ons? Because sometimes, you know, fees can be really, really big, but some of those add-ons don't seem that achievable. So that, under discussion as much as the fee, is often really, really important. You remember that Merino was left out of the Real Sociedad squad for Sunday night's defeat against Rayo Vallecano, and his manager, Emmanuel Alguacil, said his omission was because he was in talks with other clubs, namely Arsenal. That is our understanding. And the president of Real Sociedad has since been quoted as saying the following: "We will talk to Arsenal and defend the interests of Real Sociedad. When we consider that the offer is good, we will say yes," which probably implies that the offer isn't quite good enough for Real Sociedad to accept.
Up your offer and he's off.
Exactly. We know what Marino's wishes are, that's so we decided not to call him up. And on those wishes, it's our understanding that Marino's wishes are to join Arsenal Football Club. Personal terms not expected to be a problem. He's got a year left on his contract. That's a big issue for Real Sociedad. So he could actually just hang around until January and sign a pre-contract agreement with Arsenal. So this is effectively, if he's not going to sign a new contract, the optimum time to get the maximum amount of money, given how long he's got left on his contract. He comes with a big pedigree as well. Spain international, as I mentioned, played in all 7 of Spain's games in Euro 2024, scored that winner, that famous winner against Germany in the quarter-finals as well. It looks like this one is accelerating, though I have been told by one source it's only talks at the moment. Let's just calm it all down. But it does seem to be developing, this one.
So Mikel with Mikel.
Yes.
We shall see. OK, stay with us. Just a little reminder of the team news coming in from the King Power Stadium tonight. Tottenham's club record signing Dominic Solanke starts tonight as they take on Leicester, live on Sky Sports Premier League. And the good news is for Leicester is that Jamie Vardy does start, even though Steve Cooper says he might not be 100% fit. We'll keep you across the door. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Transfer Show. We all know that data and statistics are very important when making major transfer decisions, but how is that data created? Well, I'm delighted to say I'm joined now by Matt Mueller and Ed Sully from Data Analytics. I can't even say the word. Analytics company Huddle. Is that right?
You got
Huddle.
it.
OK, so I'm going to start with you then, Matt. Huddle's Y-Scout tool is used, isn't it, by Premier League clubs. So what is it and how does it work?
Sure, great question. Well, first of all, thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Y-Scout, what we believe with Huddle is how can we help teams find a way to bring video and data together to make the most impactful decisions, whether that's on the pitch or in recruitment.
Yep.
So what we do with Y-Scout is we scout over 600 competitions in the world, from the most elite youth competitions to all the competitions across Europe that you know. And we provide really detailed level of action-by-action analytics, so you can go in and scout every pass, every movement, and every build-up. And all of that's tied to video to help these teams go through and find players that make sense for them or find the right scouting tactics for that match.
Sounds like a lot of data.
For sure.
Yeah. How do they use it then? You know, they need it, Y-Scout, is that right? This is what Premier League clubs actually need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, over 600 competitions across male, female and youth competitions are available through Y-Scout. And often it's seen as a foundation to help bring to life the organisational objectives and the teams understanding what it means to win in their context. So some teams are competing to win leagues, some are competing to stay in a league, some are competing to get promoted, for example. So they're all using data along the way to understand, well, what does good look like to achieve a certain target. Then they'll be moving into looking at their own game model and their own player profiles to say, OK, based on what we want to achieve, what type of game do we want to play and what kind of players do we need? And once you're more clued in on that and using the data to help shape that, you can then flip that into the recruitment side, but not just recruitment, but also coaching and analysis and medical sports science. But from a recruitment perspective, it's then taking those player models and going, OK, we're here, we want to be here, this is the players we need to get there, how do we find those players?
There's a graphic here that everyone's watching at home. Yeah. Explain in more detail what that all means then.
Yeah, so on the left-hand side, good practice would be around understanding your organisational objectives. What are you trying to achieve as a club? Within that, there'll be some assumptions that you're making. It could be that you want to promote a certain amount of young players to play a certain amount of minutes, for example, to generate value in those players. Or it could be achieving a certain goal, winning a Premier League, for example. The next one is then the context. What does it take to win in your context? So if you're trying to get promoted into the Premier League, there's a history of what it takes to get there. So you really understand, well, what do we need to do to try and achieve that level? So now you understand your context. And then the third step there is the game model. So that game model is often broken down into attacking and defending, and then also set pieces, defending and attacking. And you're trying to really break it down to what is it we're trying to do as a team from a game model perspective. And then once you've got that game model clear, the fourth stage there is to go, well, what's the individual players that we need to play that game model? And that's essentially the basis that most clubs are working towards. Is, okay, we know where we want to go, we know what it takes to get there, we know the game we want to play, and then we go, well, what players do we need to play that? And that's all part of the process of recruitment. So all the fun stuff you're doing now in terms of the latter stages, this comes from 6, 12 months, 18 months worth of planning coming up into this moment now. And as you see with the stories going on today, some go very well, some are not going so well. And that's the beauty of working in recruitment. And certainly take our hats off to anyone who works in recruitment because it's very, very stressful.
Does the data ever get it wrong? That would be my question. Because, you know, if a player has a bad season or whatever, you know, what happens there?
Absolutely. Well, I think like everything, like any information, it should be taken into context of the situation that you're in. And we're huge believers of that at Huddle, where you've got to blend subject matter experts with the information data you have available to you. And within that data, the whole sphere of data, some of that data is something you'll only know as a club, like your own injury records or your contract statuses or your salaries, for example. They're the things you'll only really know yourselves internally. Then externally, with companies like ourselves at Huddle, this is where you can get access to biographical information, performance-based data, maybe physical tracking data. This is information you can use to pull together. So the real success stories are those clubs that can blend those things together, the subject matter expertise, the expert knowledge of the data you've got, but then also the data that you can source from companies like ourselves. And we're really proud to support clubs all over the world.
It sounds, like I said, it sounds like a mass of data though. So how does it break down to the average Premier League manager? I'm sure he's not going through statistic after statistic on you know, in order to get a player in.
Yeah, well, back when I started in early 2000s, it really was that. It was like dump a lot of data on the manager and hope that they could work it out. Today, it's much more sophisticated than that. It's like really using data models and data techniques to try and make things more link back to the model you were looking at before, make it more context specific, try and rationalise decisions, because football can be very emotional, and rightly so. That's the beauty of the game. But trying to rationalise that a little bit so that you can kind of work through those decisions. So yeah, it's more about, these days it's about taking the vast amount of data that there is and video and really simplifying that down to very specific needs. So there's teams of people all over the country now that are doing just that, working at the clubs tirelessly to get that information into key decision makers' hands as quick as possible.
I want to bring you in, Matt, because you're announcing a merger, aren't you, I think, between Huddle and StatsBomb. So tell us about this. How's this working?
Yeah, so we're really excited about StatsBomb. They're really renowned for their data integrity and quality. And not just for, you know, the basic stats like maybe like we were talking about, but also for really interesting things like pressures or pass height that maybe are objective or subjective when you're watching the video. They've built algorithms to kind of make that and turn that into objective, real meaty data. But they don't have that connected to video at all. So the beauty of Huddle and StatsBomb coming together is that we can take all of this really powerful information and layer it into our Wisecout database and start to produce really unique insights that kind of tie to exactly what Ed is talking about. So now we can have world-class data paired with video at a new level that lets us serve, you know, managers, it lets us serve recruitment specialists, it lets us serve sports scientists, basically serving every persona inside the club and connecting to the entire Huddle ecosystem, make it all really easily accessible for, you know, for everyone, even all the way down to the athletes.
It's blowing my mind, quite frankly. What I want to know is who's kind of like the geekiest Premier League team that you've ever had. You know, who comes in? Because you mentioned the fact that you've got stats for coming up into the Premier League, so I wonder whether Leicester asks for a lot of information. You know, where do you get the person coming in and saying, I want to know this, this, this and this? Yeah,
absolutely. It's a great question. I guess it all depends on who's at the club at any one time, the demand in terms of the use of data. It definitely does come from sporting directors and coaches in terms of head coaches, their demand for this information to be used in their decision-making process. But you take a coach like Vincent Kompany now, who's just obviously left the Premier League and then gone over to Germany. He's a big believer in the use of video and data and that kind of evidence to guide his decisions. So a big uplift to Bayern Munich because of that. So it's things like that, those types of coaches and sporting directors and leaders that really buy into the use of information data to make decisions.
God, it sounds absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much. I'm going to get on it and try and find a little bit of data and get my stats right for the upcoming season. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Right, it is, of course, the first Monday Night Football of the season. It's just, what, a quarter of an hour away or so. Leicester taking on Tottenham live on Sky Sports. We're going to hear from both managers left. Look at that. Oliver Skipp in the Leicester dugout. He was, of course, in the Spurs dugout. But, of course, I dare say there's been some data in order to get him to the King Power Stadium tonight. £25 million is sitting on the bench for Leicester tonight. The big team news coming out of Tottenham. Dominic Solanke starts for them, a new signing for them. And Jamie Vardy is in that starting 11 for Leicester. More next.
Hello, welcome back to the Transfer Show. It's time now to go around the clubs. Here's your bite-sized Premier League roundup. Dharmesh, are you ready to go?
Why not? Appreciate it.
Take it away.
Arsenal remain in talks with Real Sociedad over the signing of midfielder Mikel Merino. Merino was left out of the Sociedad squad for Sunday's defeat against Rayo Vallecano.
Aston Villa boss Unai Emery has said he wants to keep striker John Duran after seeing him score against West Ham at the weekend, despite numerous links with regard to a potential departure this summer.
After the club record signing of striker Eva Nielsen, Bournemouth have turned their attention to recruiting a goalkeeper.
Last week, Brentford rejected an offer from Al Ahly for Ivan Toney. This weekend, Thomas Frank said he was dropped from the squad as he wasn't in the right place to play. As of yet, there's been no formal Premier League interest in the striker.
Brighton have made a formal bid for Celtic midfielder Matt O'Reilly. Talks continue.
Chelsea have agreed a permanent deal with Atletico Madrid for João Félix, which now means Conor Gallagher's move to Diego Simeone's side is back on.
Crystal Palace centre-back Joachim Andersen and Mark Gurhey, the subject of bids from Fulham and Newcastle, both started at Brentford on Sunday.
Everton are in talks with free agent Asmir Begovic over a potential return to the club. The 37-year-old goalkeeper was at the Toffees between 2021 and 2023.
Fulham remain in talks with Manchester United over the signing of midfielder Scott McTominay. Every expectation they will go back in with an improved offer, provided United their asking price.
Ipswich have today signed Jens Kuyuste from Napoli on loan with the option to buy.
Leicester City have signed Oliver Skipp from Tottenham for a fee worth £25 million. Leicester played Tottenham in the Monday Night Football.
Oh, we went early there. Liverpool youngster Bobby Clark is set for a medical at RB Salzburg. The Austrian club have agreed a £10 million deal that also includes a 17.5% sell-on clause. Salzburg are managed by Jurgen Klopp's former assistant at Liverpool, Pep Linders.
Former Manchester City captain Ilkay Gundogan is open to leaving Barcelona. His representatives are speaking to other clubs.
Erik ten Hag still wants to add a midfielder and a left-back to his squad. One player at the top of their list is Manuel Ugarte. But United are playing the waiting game with regard to any potential deal.
Newcastle United still reviewing their next steps after seeing their fourth bid for Mark Gahey rejected by Crystal Palace last week.
Nottingham Forest are looking at strikers at the moment, as well as Arsenal's Eddie Nketiah. They have an interest in Feyenoord striker Santiago Jimenez, but have not held any formal talks as of yet. He scored 26 goals in all competitions last season.
Sporting midfielder Mateus Fernandes has been having a Southampton medical ahead of his permanent transfer.
Oliver Skipp has said his emotional goodbyes to the club he had been at since the age of 7. Today he got confirmed as a Leicester City player. Tottenham still in the market though, but the next one they do may be late business as they look to strengthen their squad in midfield.
West Ham United are in talks with PSG over the signing of midfielder Carlos Soler. PSG are understood to be open to selling the player.
Wolves boss Gary O'Neill is working under strict financial pressures as he looks to strengthen his squad. It's believed for them to invest this summer in new signings, it requires some fringe players to depart.
News from the Monday Night Football is, of course, Leicester against Tottenham. The big news for Leicester is that Jamie Vardy does indeed start. There was a bit of an issue about him. They were worried about him, but Steve Cooper has spoken about that. We'll hear from him in just a moment. But the big news is for them as well that Facundo Buonanotte and Bobby Decordova-Reid both make their debuts. Let's now hear from Cooper and what he's had to say about Jamie Vardy starting.
I just said to the players now, remember how hard you worked last season for nights like tonight. But of course, it's a massive step up to the Premier League, and you do have to tailor all the good things last year into what the challenge ahead lies, and that's been the plan. The other stuff, like the outside noise, if you like, for me that becomes a greater opportunity for us to do well. Because one thing that we can do tonight is, regardless of what may be going on outside, is give everything, is play well, is show the supporters an identity that they can really associate with, that will sort of keep the good feeling going, and that's a big intention of ours.
Also, Steve, you do have to say that Jamie Vardy was said that he was fit. You had to trust him, he says. So, interesting to see how he gets on tonight. What about Spurs, then? Their new record signing, Dominic Solanke, has been handed an immediate debut. Of course, he signed for £65 million from Bournemouth. Ange Postecoglou's been speaking about his new signing. Let's hear from him now.
It's fair to say, I think last year, we had some issues at both ends of the park at different times, defensively, particularly when we had those injuries. But I always felt, at the other end, we were always a little bit short every week. I think when Richarlison played, we were a much better team, but again, he had a lot of injuries. So just getting in a striker, I think, for the way we play, is going to make an enormous difference. And Dom's a perfect fit for us. He's, he works hard as up top and presents himself really well in terms of linking up, and he's always in the box. And really pleased to get him in.
It's been a super busy night for breaking news. You've got more, haven't you, for us, Dams?
Yeah, developments on João Félix's move from Atletico Madrid to Chelsea. Remember, we were of the understanding that he was part of the travelling squad for tonight's game against Villarreal for Atletico Madrid, but things have since developed. Yeah. And as expected, he's not been named in the starting 11 for Atletico Madrid or on the bench for this game. As I said, he was originally in the travelling party, and it's now understood that he will actually take a Chelsea medical as soon as tomorrow. The fee is understood to be £42 million initial payment plus £4.3 million in performance-related add-ons. So just in excess of £46 million all in. And Conor Gallagher now, of course, that will unlock his move from Chelsea to Atletico Madrid. He's now in discussions over his travel plans to Madrid from London, but no rush considering last time when he went and ended up coming back. We do know that move was agreed a couple of weeks ago, £36 million to go from Chelsea to Atletico Madrid. It obviously fell through because Sam Omorodion's move from Atletico to Chelsea didn't happen. So Atletico had to get the money somehow to be able to fund that £36 million. Yeah. It looks like they've got it now with the move for João Félix. So João Félix on his way to Chelsea, medical tomorrow, a fee of just over £46 million.
OK, let's just crack on through, if we can, with a few more bits of transfer news. İlkay Gundogan, where are we with this? Because he could be leaving Barcelona, is that right?
Yeah, quite amazing considering he didn't join them that long ago. And he's also announced his international retirement today from Germany. 82 caps. Wasn't a part of the 2014 World Cup because of injury, sadly. But left Manchester City having won the treble. Barcelona, we understand, are open to letting him leave. The player is open to departing as well from Barcelona, and he's instructed his representatives to put feelers out with regards to the next potential destination. We know that Barcelona are struggling with regards to meeting La Liga's finance rules, and with him being one of the highest earners at the club, they would obviously be open to seeing him depart as well. 36 appearances in La Liga last year, what Barcelona did. Of course, the reports will continue with regards to Manchester City. Could he head back? We'll have to wait and see what happens.
All right, you've got final word then on McTominay, Darmashaf.
Yeah, I mean, this could be impacted now by Fulham's pursuit of Sander Berge, but they did reopen talks with Manchester United over Scott McTominay. It should be said that Manchester United are understood to be happy if Scott McTominay stays. And the only way that they will let him go is if he asks to leave and if a suitable offer coupled alongside the fact that he would want to leave, those two factors come together. So still plenty of work to do on that. I'm just keeping an eye on how far this Sander Berge deal is going to go.
You've been very good company. Thank you very much, Mark and Darmesh. OK, stay with us. We'll have plenty more ahead of the first Monday Night Football of the season. It's Leicester who are back in the Premier League. They're up against Spurs. We'll bring you the team news and we'll keep you across it all next.